All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Day 15, episode 16, 40 days of 4VKM. We're still tracking, and we're green because we're talking about Christmas today. This video came out on Christmas 2020, 12/25/2020, and it was the first real episode after the election. We talked about what is 4VKM, that episode yesterday. But this is a fun episode. It's titled War on Christmas, and became a series. We actually ended up with 3 War on Christmases. And that's the famous phrase, right? How many times did you hear President Trump say War on Christmas, right? He was talking about it before he became president, and then he ended up declaring victory on the War on Christmas later on into his presidency, just like he did ISIS. So the video starts off showing Melania Trump decorating the White House, and we know that she had the assistant that recorded her and then leaked it to the media, kind of bitching about having to do all the Christmas stuff and whatnot. Let's be honest, sure, some people like doing that stuff, but some people, it's not for everybody. It's a lot of work, right? And the White House, you got to decorate the White House. That's a big task, right? But she did a great job, especially picking out the trees, right? You had a lot of red trees, right? And what happens to an evergreen tree when it is dying? It turns red. So, interesting connection there. Who's evergreen? I think you guys know. So the other interesting thing about Melania Trump and her decorations, right, is, I said right, I'm going to try my best to not say right. I get the feedback, I hear it myself, drives me crazy. So I'm going to try to limit the rights today. So we see Melania Trump. We've talked about the correlation, the parallel, situation with her and Jacqueline Kennedy. There's a lot of ornaments in the video that she put out showing off the White House decorations for Christmas, and those ornaments are commemorating the Kennedy Christmas and Jacqueline Kennedy's role in that from 1961 to 1963. There's JFK commemorative ornaments that you could purchase from the White House at this time, and there was a big JFK thing. They even did the Christmas tree very similar to one of the years when Jackie Kennedy was doing the Christmas tree in the White House as well. So, what a nice little sync there that you have between Melania, Jackie Kennedy. It's like she's trying to tell you something, right? So you have Melania Trump. You have President Trump then, speaking about the war on Christmas like we were just talking about. You have all the media saying, war on Christmas, war on Christmas, war on Christmas. And then you have The View. They're talking about it. And they're like, what war on Christmas? I celebrate Christmas every year. Is it like code for something? Maybe it's code for something. I don't know. So he's always talking about war on Christmas. If you pop up Merry Christmas in the 17 drops, you'll find that 7 times. So it's interesting. A couple times said on Christmas itself. So, we have a little bit of a Christmas theme going, right? War on Christmas, war on Christmas. And that got me thinking, when the WWE used to go overseas to go celebrate with the troops Christmas. And that started in 2003. So in 2020, it was the 18th time they did this. And, they went and celebrated with the troops who were at war on Christmas. They went to Baghdad, the first one that they ever did. 2003, they had a Tribute to the Troops event in Baghdad where they brought all the WWE superstars out, and Vince McMahon comes out and he does this big speech thanking the Patriots overseas there. And that becomes kind of a staple throughout the holidays for the next 18 years, the WWE celebrating with the troops. A couple episodes ago, I told you about the Digital Thunderdome, the Thunderdome that they created during COVID when they couldn't have fans. So they had everybody's picture on the screen. And you could go in there, and that was the live event experience, in between not having fans. So when they were doing Tribute to the Troops that year, they had to do it in the Thunderdome because can't have everybody together, 2020. So it got me thinking. I'm like, wow, those are digital soldiers right there, right? You have digital images of all your soldiers here on Christmas, celebrate Tribute to the Troops, right? In the Thunderdome. So thought that was very interesting. And you see in the video all the different bases that they chose to represent, and troops from these different stations and bases across the world, they were, in the Thunderdome there. So you get to see all that, which is cool. WWE has done a great job supporting the troops throughout the year. They still do the Tribute to the Troops today. They just did one recently. CM Punk was on it, right? This was, I think, his second or third appearance back in WWE. And CM Punk's on it. Right? He had been gone for a long time. And he's back for Tribute to the Troops. And the CM Punk first 4VKM appearance is in this War on Christmas video. On Christmas Day 2020. You have a scene with him and John Cena. So John Cena, very interesting character. We've talked about him a couple times. And what I show in this video is, we talked about the interview that I did on 12/9 yesterday. So 12/9, we do the interview with the Conspiracy Horseman. Shout out Bin Hameen. And a couple days later, I had a very strange account. I don't want to call it strange, but, a non-account, if you want to call it that, reach out to me and ask me if they thought John Cena was following 4VKM. And I was like, I don't know. I think it's possible, but I mean, there's nothing that I could say that leads me to believe that or know that for a fact. And this person sends me a social media post from John Cena, which you see in the video. And it's basically like, something along the lines, I can't remember exactly what it said, but something along the lines of, this great play will continue, and happy to have a verse in it, right? This grand play, something along the lines. He's telling about like this, like almost like a plan, like a long-standing plan, right? I think that's what that user was insinuating. Hey, I think he's talking about your plan here, the 40-year plan. He's saying they're proud to have a small role in it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, And I would have thought nothing of this interaction, except shortly after this interaction happened, the official John Cena Twitter account followed me. And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's weird. So is that the guy that runs John Cena's social media account? John Cena follows like over 100,000 people, right? So to say John Cena follows you, it's a very cool feeling, but he also follows like a million other people too. So, and all sorts of people, right? So, feels a little special, but it was interesting that exchange happened right before John Cena followed me. Was it John Cena's burner account? Or like I said, was it just the person that does John Cena's social media? Regardless of the fact, it was interesting. And I've kind of never really forgot about that. And what did we say the date of the video was? I think at the time John Cena followed me, he was at 12.9 million followers. So there's a nice little sync there, right? So anyway, going back to John Cena, he's the big hero. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. He's from Newbury, Massachusetts, or West Newbury, Massachusetts, I should say, which some of my friends say that's basically New Hampshire. But it's okay. It's all New England at the end of the day. And I told you about this in a couple videos ago. John Cena's grandfather was named Tony Lupien, born on the same day, I think 60 years before John. And he was a Red Sox player. He played for the Boston Red Sox. He grew up in Boston as well. He was on the Red Sox. He also was in the U.S. Navy for a short period in World War II. 1945. He also went to Harvard, right? So they were both born in 1917, him and JFK. So I kind of show you the timelines. This guy, Tony Lupien, was at Harvard the same year as JFK was. He was a year earlier, but he was still there for 3 years while JFK was. And they were in the Navy in the same year also, 1945. So it's a small world. Who knows if they ever met each other, if they knew each other, if they were all war buddies. Who knows, right? But you have that kind of connection there between John, JFK, Tony Lupien, his grandfather. So that's where CM Punk kind of comes into the picture. And CM Punk is reading him the riot act, right? They're in Boston for this scene. I want to say it's 2011. And CM Punk's still a bad guy. He's about to become a good guy. John Cena is the good guy, right? The WWE champion, right? And he always talks about hustle, loyalty, respect. And he was always that Rocky character, that underdog that ends up, he never gives up. So he ends up winning at the end all the time, right? He was a dynasty. He had won, multiple championships. I don't know how many it was at that point, but he's currently at 16 world championships. And the next one that he wins, Lord willing, will be the record-breaking 17th world championship. Interesting. So you have John Cena and CM Punk. CM Punk is going through all the, the Boston teams because he's giving it to them, and it's a good way to get some heat from the Boston crowd, right? Talk shit about the Boston sports teams, right? And he's like, yeah, you think you're a dynasty or you think you're the underdog, just like the Red Sox think that they're the underdog, just like the Patriots think that they're the underdog. Gridiron gang, right? 6 rings. Just like the Bruins think that they're the underdogs, right? And he mentions the Celtics. And a quick little story about me and the Celtics and the last time they won an NBA championship, which was their 17th NBA championship. It happened to be my 21st birthday. And so June 17th, 2008. And it's the Celtics playing the Lakers. And I believe we're at Game 6. And if the Celtics win, they win the championship, right? And they move ahead of LA. And they have the most championships in the league, right? In league history. So, Celtics win that night. 21st birthday. It's the best 21st birthday anybody could ever have. I'm at world's greatest bar on, I think it's Friend Street, right outside the arena where the Celtics are playing, with all my best buds, right? My family. We're having just an amazing time. Obviously, 21st birthday. Lots of shots, right? Feeling pretty good, right? Damn it, there's a couple rights right there. So we go through Celtics win. I remember WAAF radio station at the time. They interviewed me. They found out it was my birthday. I made an ass out of myself on the radio. If I could ever find that clip, I would love to find it. And then after that was all over, we were leaving the bar, and I was convinced and, I was determined to get to the arena. And there's a massive sea. If you've ever seen a championship win in the hometown, you just see a sea of people after the game, right? And that's what it was. I get out on Front Street, sea of people. But I was like, I'm going to the arena. So I made my way through a sea of people because I had to get to that arena, man. And I got to the point where I couldn't go any further. It's a police barricade, right? They had the guardrails set up, right? Outside the arena. The street closed off, right? And all I remember, because remember, 21st birthday, all I remember is these flashes. I wasn't thinking of any of it at the time, right? Next morning, I wake up on a couch somewhere and had a bunch of text messages that, I was on the front cover of the Boston Herald. And that, if you go to my profile picture on X, that's the picture of me on the Boston Herald on the night that the Boston Celtics won their 17th World Championship on June 17th, 2008, when they beat Kobe. Now, 2 years later, it was also June 17th, and I think it was a Game 7, and it was, once again, Lakers, Kobe versus Celtics. Kobe won that one, right? So R.I.P. Kobe. Gone too soon. But very fun night to say the least, right? So I throw that in there while CM Punk's talking about the Celtics. I'm like, well, good opportunity to show off my Boston Herald picture there. 17th World Championship. So, moral of the story, CM Punk is basically comparing now John Cena and all the Boston teams to what we hated as Boston fans before Boston fans started to win, which was the New York Yankees. Because at this point, he's not the underdog. He's the, multiple-time world champion. He's the dynasty, just like the Patriots were the dynasty, and the Celtics had been, and, the Red Sox had a nice little run for 20 years. Not so great now, those Red Sox, but hopefully they figure something out there. Sam Kennedy, wake the hell up. But anyway, so John Cena gets called the New York Yankees, and that's like a line he can't go. He gives CM Punk a good wallop there, right? But what's funny, a couple years later at WrestleMania 35 in New York, 2019, Elias, who we talked about a couple episodes, he's doing a concert at WrestleMania, like he likes to do. And usually when he would do the concerts, somebody would always interrupt him, right? And who interrupts Elias at that concert at WrestleMania? It's John Cena. And John Cena is coming out to his old rap gimmick, the Doctor of Thugonomics. He comes out to his old music. And what is he wearing? He's wearing New York Yankees, Babe Ruth, number 3 jersey, right? So CM Punk's, prophecy kind of came true there. He became the New York Yankees, right? And there he is coming out dressed up as the New York Yankees. So I thought that was pretty fun. So anyway, then we move back to 2020. And I want to say it was November that year. There was an earthquake. And you see the news clips, right? It was in Fall River, that area, southeast Massachusetts, near Rhode Island, right? And if you look at the epicenter of the earthquake, it was basically on the shoreline, almost exactly where the JFK Jr. plane crash happened, right? So I show you a couple things, right? We're playing a song it's called What Makes a Good Man by The Heavy. Great song, love it. This was actually a theme song at the Royal Rumble one year. I want to say 2013, when it was CM Punk versus The Rock for the WWE Championship. I want to say this was one of the theme songs for that event. But I always liked the song, good song, right? It made me remember that quote that JFK Jr. had, and, I'm going to try to get it right, but it's something along the lines of, people tell me I could be a great man, but I'm okay with being a good man. I want to be a good man, right? So what makes a good man? We'll find out. So his plane, famously, he had owned was not the one that had crashed, right? But this was another plane, and it was very important to him because the call sign was 529JK or JK 529, one of the two, right? 529, birth date of John Kennedy, his dad. So you have that. We show you on 11/11, either 17 or 18, maybe 19, maybe 20. I don't remember what year, but it was one of the 11/11s. Air Force One flies directly over the plane crash site as well on 11/11. What are the odds of that, right? You also have President Trump. He unveils the new design for Air Force One, which was supposed to come in 2024, right? Remember, he famously would talk about how, they wanted all this money, Boeing wanted all this money for Air Force One, and he negotiated it down, and then, he designed it, the color scheme himself. He picked out the paint scheme himself. It's the same paint scheme as Trump Force One and his planes that he's had for years. And if you're ever in South Florida and you want to find out if President Trump's at Mar-a-Lago or not, just go down Southern Boulevard. You'll see the airport on the left if you're going towards Mar-a-Lago. And you can see if his plane's right there. You usually will see it right there. And you'll know if President Trump is at Mar-a-Lago or not, if his plane's there. So the color scheme of the plane was also the same color scheme of JFK's plane, the 529JK. And it is also the color scheme of John Denver's plane. We get to that in a later episode as well, right? But something about those colors, right? Now, so Trump had designed this new plane, and then it came out, Joe Biden was like, no, we're not going to change the colors, right? So let's see what happens. But I do find it interesting that Trump said, this plane's not for me. This is for other presidents. And when does he say that's going to be? After 2024. We're in 2024. So let's see what happens, right? So we've shown you all that. We talked about the relationship that the WWE had with, the troops. We showed you Vince McMahon dressed up or addressing the troops at one of the other tribute to the troops. And, you have Santa Claus out there. And it seems like whoever dresses up like Santa Claus gets the best of Vince McMahon at these tribute to the troop shows. There's a lot of speculation that Junior and Caroline were dressed up as Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus at a couple different Trump rallies, right? So kind of show you that there, the ones where people say that they think that's them. John Cena, speaking of another John, he was one of the people dressed up as Santa Claus. And remember, he says, you can't see me. So John, you can't see me, Santa Claus. He unveils himself and gives Vince McMahon the good old F you there. So we show you that as well. But it's interesting. We show you a picture of these two people that are investigating the plane crash. And you see the wreckage of the plane, right? And you see one person sitting down that looks like Carolyn. And you have another person that looks like Junior. You don't see the front of him. You just see the back of him, right? So show you that there. Make up your own mind. Could just be another coincidence. The two people that are in this picture look exactly like the people who were in the plane. So, but you can't see their face. So, we show you all that and, what makes a good man at the end of the day. John Cena is a very good man. And that's kind of how we wrap up the video, because John Cena, we do show you, before we get to John Cena, we show you Trump getting asked about QAnon in 2020 by one of the reporters, right? And remember what they said? They said, are you helping to take down human trafficking, pedophile, satanic network? And because this is what the QAnon people think, right? And, right. And Trump says, I haven't heard of that, but is that a bad thing if I do, right? So there's a organization, I believe it's called Operation Underground Railroad, and they support human trafficking victims, and they call it a Q-adjacent charity, right? And you have some former wrestlers that were involved with that and helping out with that. And these poor guys got so much crap from the wrestling community and from, I think, Media Matters drew a hit piece on them because they were QAnon people, right? And so one of them was Drake Wirtz, I think is how you pronounce his name. He was actually a referee for WWE at the time. Once this stuff kind of came out, he stayed true to what he believed on social media and whatnot. So a lot of people really gave him shit for that. He ended up getting released a couple years later, but he didn't change who he was. So something to be said about that, even if it cost him his career. Matt Morgan, another wrestler who used to be in WWE, started there. I think he was on Tough Enough back in the day. He actually got into local politics in Florida. He was another one that was a supporter of this organization here. And again, they're hitting these people, right? Because how dare you, go after, or help people, who want to see human trafficking stop, right? And then, what did I tell you earlier, right? The special report episode I dropped before this episode. What do we say they're accusing Vince McMahon of, right? Human trafficking now, right? So it's that beautiful word, projection, right? They said Trump was friends with Epstein, so he must be involved in human trafficking because he was there, right? He was around Epstein, so he's a human trafficker, right? Well, I knew it was just a matter of time before they came out with something new that had to do with Trump with Vince, and there you go, yesterday, human trafficking Vince, right? So, we show you all that. We show you going back to John Cena being a good man, John being a good man. You have, he sets the record for Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? And you have, they show 40 years of working with Make-A-Wish Foundation. They've had Hulk Hogan, The Rock, obviously all these big people who really contributed, to do those wishes for those kids. And WWE is all about taking care of the kids at the end of the day. So shout out to John Cena. He holds the record for most wishes granted ever in the history of Make-A-Wish Foundation. So he is a really good man, that John Cena. A lot of people don't like the fact that, he did that thing about China and Taiwan. And my take on it, I show you this in this video, and I'm so glad I remembered this because it is an important part, right? When John Cena was that doctor of thugonomics, he was, he had something called the chain gang, right? So he had a white shirt with a logo that looked like a C and a G, right? Now, in 1999, what are the odds? That was the year. In 1999, the WWE did a program, or they did a storyline which they never really had a ending to, right? They never told you who was behind it. They just ended it, and then everybody was like, whatever happened with this GTV thing, right? So GTV was like an anonymous person that was recording WWE superstars in compromising positions and then playing it on television, right? And they'd have a little logo, GTV. So fast forward, Steve Bannon, when I think it was the Hunter Biden stuff or something that Steve Bannon was releasing in the 2020 election. I think it was the Hunter Biden stuff. The laptop from hell contents, right? Where were they broadcasting that? On with a Chinese billionaire, and the name of the company that they were using to broadcast the Hunter Biden stuff was called GTV. So I'm like, wow, what are the odds of that? You had this unfinished storyline, GTV, and now all these years later, you have GTV kind of exposing what's happening with the laptop from hell. So I thought that was a very interesting connection that not a lot of wrestling fans know about. But yeah, and then if you go back to John Cena, that chain gang logo looks very similar to the GTV logo. Probably just a coincidence, right? A lot of people don't like the fact, like I said, that John Cena kind of defended China because he got in trouble for that, right? When you have business relationships, when you have roles that you have to fulfill, yeah, it would be nice for everybody to just say what they wanted to say all the time. But the reality is you can't do that. The reality is people who like Trump have to distance themselves from Trump in a lot of instances so they don't blow their cover. And I'm not saying that's John Cena. I'm not saying John Cena is a big Trump guy. There's been no indication of that. But he's a big Vince McMahon guy because even after the scandal came out in 2022, John Cena spent Vince McMahon's birthday with him. So, he's got a special place in his heart there for old Vinnie Mac. So that's about it on this. So War on Christmas. The last thing I'll say about the War on Christmas is that if you look at the Russian Orthodox Christmas date, that is January 7th. Christmas Eve is January 6th. And I just said that date, so they're going to put a damn disclaimer under the video, unfortunately, because if you just say that date, they have to add context on YouTube, the losers. But we're talking about War on Christmas. And you can make an argument that War on Christmas broke out on January 6th, right? However it went down, it looked like a war scene, right? So it's interesting. War on Christmas. There was another war on that Christmas date too. Or on Christmas itself, right? Trump would say, remember the attack on Merry Christmas. And you have, that's when George Washington crossed the Delaware on Christmas. And you had that surprise attack. And, he was in a Durham boat. You have that famous picture that was recreated with Trump crossing the swamp. And then you have a very interesting individual at the front of that boat, holding up a lantern, kind of leading the way. So it's interesting, to say the least. Trump might have been holding the lantern. This guy might have been rowing. But check out the episode, War on Christmas, the first one. The other two get even better, I'll be honest with you. The second one, I think, is my favorite. The third one, was great as well. And, it all ties back together at the end of the day. So check it out. The link is on Rumble, War on Christmas, Uno. Don't forget to sign up for the 4VKM podcast. It's going to be the most fire podcast now because, we're going to have a trial going on maybe with Vincent Kennedy McMahon as he defends himself from these accusations that have been thrown at him. And again, if you're looking for my response on that, I put one out the day it happened on Twitter. The video that came out that day was recorded the day before, so that's why there's no mention of it in there. I recorded an emergency episode of this show today, which you're also getting. So if you want to see my thoughts on that, go watch the previous video. I ain't running from it. So enjoy the show as always, 4vkm.com. War on Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas in January.